You're still watching Sunday Express, and tonight we want to put matters into perspective when it comes to matters of dyslexia. Let me break it down for you. Dyslexia is a disorder that makes learning rather difficult, and it is a common learning disability among children, and it actually persists through life. So tonight I'm joined by two our guests tonight. They have history with dyslexia. They'll tell us their personal experiences and what they have done, to make their life better, and what they're doing to make the lives of those with dyslexia also better. I'm talking about none other than Roslyn Kianati, who is the founder and executive director of Africa Dyslexia Organization. Welcome. And last but not least, the gentleman in the room, that is Aaron Phillips, who is the international ambassador for Africa Dyslexia. Very much welcome tonight.
Thank you so much for joining us.
It is a disorder, and as parents and guardians, sometimes we refer to our children as being slow when they do not catch up in school. But now we understand it actually may be dyslexia. Let's pick it up from the top. Okay. There are several forms of dyslexia. As a guardian and a parent, what are the signs and symptoms? Let's start off with you, Roslyn.
Okay, so thank you so much for having us here tonight. This is going to be really helpful to spread awareness on dyslexia to your audience. So with signs to observe in your child is usually when you have a child and you know very much that at this age, this child should be reading at a certain level, but the child is not matching up to it. So for example, they are flipping words and D as B, they are not recognizing letters, they have very little attention when it comes to learning. You might teach them one word, for example, a 3-letter word on page 1, and you feel like they have understood. You go on the next page and they cannot even recognize such word. In the school system, this child feel very shy to read in public. They feel shy to read loud. They can't get anything. Some of them even have issue with long attention span, so like short-term attention. Therefore, if you're teaching them in the classroom and it's too much minutes or hours in teaching, they kind of lose focus on this. And these students, you usually will identify them through the academic works. You will find that they are not performing, they are not doing well. And in our society, when it comes to the African continent, we will regard such students as either being blockheaded, lazy, dumb, stupid. Why am I teaching you and you're not getting? And the parents will be like, why are you not doing so well in school? So these are all the things, the contributing factor. Now I have to emphasize that there are so many of these students in the classroom, but it might not necessarily be that they are dyslexic. It could be of a different challenge. For example, I had a student who had issue with eye, but nobody knew. And so when he sits in the class, he cannot see the blackboard. The parent doesn't know he has issue with eye. The teacher doesn't know. So students like that, you can automatically jump like, oh, this child may be dyslexic. Yes. But it turns out that once the evaluations were done and everything, the child actually had issue with eye problem. And when the right prescription was given to the child started performing. And so I wanted us to highlight that so that teachers tomorrow don't wake up and be like, oh, I know this child.
This child might be dyslexic.
It might be.
As you're talking about dyslexia, we understand there are 5 categories. Maybe, Aaron, you can take us through that. There are 5 categories of dyslexia. And yes, we know that those that can be hereditary, but then these 5 categories, how do they differ from each other? Aaron?
Now, I'm not the expert in that. I would love to answer that question. Yeah. No, I'm going to have to let Rosie answer that question. Yes, she's the expert.
So we have dyslexia in different forms. So for example, I am dyslexic. Aaron is also dyslexic.
Yes.
But you can literally have 4 dyslexics here that we are all dyslexic, but there are differences.
Different categories.
So there are categories like visual dyslexia, auditory dyslexia, lack of attention focus, sensory integration. However, I tell you, I have all of them.
Okay.
Aaron probably have all of them. So far in my line of work, I haven't seen a dyslexic who has just
single one, yeah.
Right. So when we really want to emphasize on dyslexia, I want us to focus on all the aspects to really see. But there are levels. Some man may have mild dyslexia, and which I think Aaron is.
I'm mild.
But I have severe dyslexia because I started reading and writing at the age of 17. As a girl, it was very hard for me to go through school. Aaron is able to pick up words. At the age of 17, he was doing very well. You would have a child who is even 25 and still cannot read. Even there are adults, I have met them, that are hiding behind, thinking nobody knows they are, but they can't.
So how do you then assist these people, dyslexics, if I may use that, if that's appropriate now, to live a full life, so to speak? Because we actually take in a lot of data. Visually, hearing, we take in a lot of data, and if we cannot process it, then that's a challenge. So what are we doing, or what can we do?
Yeah. So my story, I was a horrible student, and had no idea why I was so bad. I mean, again, I had the label lazy and everything else. But the thing about me, I think, separated myself from a lot of kids that were dyslexic that didn't know, or whatever the situation is. I always had a lot of confidence. I was very, very confident. So even though I graduated from high school with my grade point average was terrible, as an adult, I was able to function because of my ability just to have confidence. But I could not understand why I struggled so much. I struggled with writing. I struggled with reading. I struggled with a lot of different things. So I was a little different. I kind of developed my own little way of learning, my way. I taught myself chemistry, to advance my career. So, and I think that everyone's different to a certain extent if you don't know you have it. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here. I mean, I have a pretty successful career, even though I did not know I only found I was dyslexic about 4 or 5 years ago. So it just kind of explained things, like it made sense. But then working with Rosie and her organization, it taught me, wow, it's like if I would have had a lot of that a lot of what she's teaching the teachers now, and again, I'm going to let her explain what they're doing. I know I would have graduated. I didn't graduate from college. I actually dropped out of college because it was so difficult, and I couldn't understand why. There was no parent that said, hey, you know what, I got you, here's what the problem is. And I know that it would have been a completely different situation for me had I had a Rosie.
Now, that particular link, Rosalind, how do we help teachers, parents, and also those students who are dyslexic have a full life, getting the data, the information, so that they can process their lives?
Okay, thank you so much. So I would say early intervention is key. So we at Africa Dyslexia Organization, we are talking about early intervention, accommodation, and support for our learners with dyslexics, or our learners in general who have challenges with studies. And so I'll take it one by one. When I say early intervention, we are looking at is our teachers trained enough to be able to identify that this child in my classroom is likely to be facing learning challenges. Therefore, we need to call the parents in, and together with the parents, we can know how to support this child. Is our teachers resourced enough? Do they have the expertise to do that? And so this is where we call on our countries that, listen, we have training colleges that these teachers go through training. What training are they taking when it comes to learning disabilities? When it comes to physical disabilities, we are doing very well. But what we
learning is a missing link.
Is a missing link. But you know that you cannot go to every classroom and find somebody with eye challenges there, but you will go to every classroom and find that child who is muted in the classroom and need help. So what do we need to do? We need to train our teachers to be able to teach in a multi-sensory approach so that all learners in the classroom can benefit. Regina, we have 4 types of learners in the classroom. 4 types of learners: people who learn by just through reading and writing. Someone will learn just by hearing. The other person will learn just by seeing it in pictures. The other person will learn by seeing it both in pictures and through hands-on practicals. So if that is the case, but then you study here in Kenya, so you know that a lot of us school practice the reading and writing version. So that means if you have a child like me who learns through kinesthetic way, or him who learns through pictorial and stuff, what happens to us?
You are left behind.
Exactly. So now we need to train
Increase
our
capacity.
teachers to be able to teach all diverse learners in the classroom, and they will do better.
Now, before we head to the rest of the intervention, the breakdown that you gave us, for intervention and how to live better, we have a new education system that has somewhat moved away from the theory, the reading and writing, and has incorporated hands-on talent. Do you think this is the step in the right direction, that it can actually now, address these issues to some extent? What do you think?
I heard about it when I got to Kenya, and
Yes.
I was so marveled. I was like, wow, that is excellent.
Okay.
And I heard also that we are not supposed to be repeating a child
Yes.
in the classroom. I was like, excellent. What my question is, for them to take this strategic move, did they have in mind all diverse learners, or they are taking the strategic move because they feel that is the right thing to do?
When the task force actually was put to task to try and change this particular system and get a new one, they felt that whatever they were churning out, the graduates at the end of the learning season were not very well equipped hands-on to deal with the gaps within the market, or rather the employment sector. So they wanted a holistic student. You do not only just read and write, but you can also think outside the box, work on what works for you. If you're artistic, if you're into science, I think that was one of the key areas when the report came out. This is why we're actually transiting from 844 to the CBC. Yes.
I think it's excellent.
I
I love
Yeah.
it. Even though I can tell, I don't know, and I might be mistaken, forgive me, I can tell that they took this move not really having in mind
Oh,
that
the
dyslexic
difference.
learner. However, it's going to benefit us.
Without
And
a
so
doubt.
now that we are speaking on your channel and they are hearing, they should know that there are some children that learn differently.
Yes.
And this method they are taking, or this strategic journey they are taking, is going to benefit them. But we need to address that issue as well.
Yes.
We don't have to ignore that, because we are now doing hands-on stuff and very specific, we're going to ignore that. Let's address that, because dyslexics are some of the smartest you can get in your society. I'll give you some few names. For example, Albert Einstein, Leonardo da Vinci, Richard Branson, Whoopi Goldberg, Will Smith, all these people, Steve Jobs of Apple, are dyslexics. And if you can study what runs through these people, is creativity and innovative.
Creativity and innovation.
Yes. So if these people are that, then let's pay attention and look at those students in our classroom that are not performing. Let's identify them, have assessment for them, put them on individual learning plan, and they will thrive. They will thrive. But then the teachers need to be trained to be able to
Deal
do
with
all that we
with
say.
the special needs. But then there's a question of trauma. There's a question of trauma. How do we address that? I can see Aaron actually nodding to that. Issue of trauma and how it helps us, or rather how it affects, someone's future.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's a great question. For me personally, I was used to the word lazy and trifling growing up. It was really hard, as a child to be labeled that. You don't know what the heck's going on. But one of the things that I did is being dyslexic now is that I challenged that. I challenged that energy. I said to myself, okay, this is who I am, whatever, I'm going to figure it out. And as an adult, that's exactly what I did. I took all the stuff that happened to me as a child, everything that happened, and I put it into my career. Like before I started my company, I'm a founder of Green Earth Sustainable Solution. I used to work at Tesla, so I actually worked with Elon Musk. I used to meet with him every 2 weeks for my department. And one of the things at Tesla, they looked for people who were creative, that could fix problems, that can solve things. So for me, my whole life, it didn't matter if I worked I used to be CEO of a metal recycling company, I had to figure things out. So as I'm figuring things out, after now, again, I find out I'm dyslexic. That's one of the reasons what made me so creative is the fact that I couldn't just rely on what I know. I had to rely on either fixing a problem or being that one guy that had no problems taking on a challenge. So that's why when I hear about what your curriculum is or what they're talking about, for me, I would have flourished in a situation like that. That would have been like, I mean, I'm just getting the chills right now just thinking about the kids that are in this kind of the same situation and how they could take that trauma, as you would say, and turn it into something positive, especially as they get older.
Well, it's good to hear from someone who is looking from, from out into the system.
Absolutely.
We've had a push and pull for the transition. We're still trying to get it right.
Yes.
But it's good to look at the positive aspect of it.
Definitely.
But then, when it comes to trauma, there's also a trauma associated with parents who are dealing with children with disability.
Yes.
Or, this impairment, They thought that my child cannot or is not doing as well in school.
Right.
That now I have to move them to a school that caters.
Yeah.
How do we make parents understand that, it is not your fault?
Yeah.
It has
Right.
actually happened. How do we give them the requisite support?
Okay. So with parents, and I agree, no parents would want to sit down and you just come to them and say that there's something
Wrong with your child.
wrong
Yeah.
with your child.
Yeah. No
And
way.
when it comes to dyslexia especially, I have to say that it has nothing to do with health. The child is not sick. You're not going to give medication to the child. It simply means that your child brain is wired beautifully than any other person. And if the right learning approach is administered to your child is going to blossom and thrive. Now, it is the way of communicating that will make the parents flip out or be in acceptance. Since I came, I've gone to some schools and I hear that, parents don't even want their child to be picked from the class and give individualized support because they feel like you are treating their child as a special needs child. It's because the parents, you have not communicated it with them. But imagine if you call a parent and you really sit down and say that, hey, I think your child learns differently in a very smart, different way. And you break it down to the parents and give them examples of people who are dyslexic. It kind of put them at ease. And then you let them know this has nothing to do with medication. This has nothing to do with health-related issue, unless because a child can have what we call co-mobility issue. So I can have dyslexia and also experience ADHD. So if I'm experiencing that, depending on what level I am with ADHD, I might be required to take a medication. But you're not taking a medication for dyslexia,
Yes.
you take a medication for something else.
Yeah.
So when that is breaking down, the parents will find they're very easy with all the information that they are receiving. And then you, the school as well, showing them that you are ready to work with them. And not just saying that, oh, I think your child is quite lazy in school. I think your child is giving us trouble. Your child is, because normally, because we are being told lazy, stupid, and all that, we tend to put on a character of defensiveness, right? So sometimes we come across as the child who is troublesome
Yes.
in the school. So if you go that way saying that your child is troublesome, your child is this, listen, the parents will block you from saying that.
Yes.
So it's all about how you communicate it and the solution you lay down to the parent that you as a school, you're going to work with them to support their child.
You have gone through our system, and I like that you have sampled 1, 2, 3 schools in the course of your stay here. Do you think we have the right support in place, especially in school? Or is there, as you've said, we need to increase capacity? But do you think we'll have the right capacity, or rather the right resource to build on?
Well,
Looking at our public schools.
so far, I haven't gone to a public school yet, but the schools that I have visited, I would say that they are on the right track. And I have to also highlight this organization, which is Dyslexia Organization Kenya. They are based here in Kenya and have done fantastic awareness and advocacy.
Yes.
They also have an inclusive school that take care of dyslexic, autism, and all that, which is in Kitengela. They're doing amazing work. Such an organization have the resources to support your country, Kenya. And what the government, especially the Ministry of Education, needs to do is to reach out to them and work with them so that they can put in the resources together. I understand that you have a teacher training college for a special education.
Yes.
And actually, one of the founders graduated from the school. But she told me, listen, yeah, we did the special education, all right. But what we did on learning disability was just like a paragraph.
Oh.
So now we need to harness that. We need to make it very like a huge component as that, so that teachers are required to take dyslexia training. Now in New York, you cannot be a teacher in New York without taking a training in dyslexia. It is mandatory in New York. But it doesn't mean that they are training every teacher to become a dyslexic reading specialist. It just simply means that everybody take it so that you understand and know when you see that child in school. Then out of those who are taking the training, those who are very passionate are going to come out and be like, we will specialize in this area and support the children. And we will all move in.
Wow. Thank you for that insight. And as you've said, this is national broadcaster. Government is watching. We say Kenya is watching. So that is going to be put into practice, so to speak. We have been speaking to our two guests tonight, trying to understand dyslexia. And our take home is that it has nothing to do with you as a parent. There is no medication that you can give to your child. You just need to understand that they just see and learn differently.
Yes.
They're just able differently when it comes to matters of studies. We have been speaking to none other than Rosalind Kianati, who's a founder and executive director of Africa Dyslexia Organization, and Aaron Phillips, who's international ambassador for Africa Dyslexia. That puts a cap on matters Sunday edition here, Sunday Express. I'm Regina Manyara, and I wish you a great week ahead.